Hi, this is Roger. Thanks for dropping by. I haven't looked closely at the Tulumnias for quite a while, and I like to get this out there. These are rewarding little plants. If you've got an inch of space on your shelf, you've got room for one of these. These are easy to look after given a few provisos, and those provisos are not hard work. So these are not hard work, they're not difficult. You can grow them in the home. Quite honestly, you can grow them practically anywhere with those few provisos. Those provisos stem from how and where they come from, as with most of our orchids. Now, these come from in and around the Caribbean basin, so all over the islands and round that coastline. But emphasis on that point, they do tend to come from areas that are quite close to the coast. And what do you get when you're near the coast and it's warm as well? Good humidity. That's one of the factors you really need to consider. These are not going to do too well if the air's dry. They like good humidity, bit of air movement as well, but again that applies to most orchids, if not all. And these are a bit special. They were once classed as oncidiums. They were called equitant oncidiums. And apparently that is something to do with, if you turn the plant upside down, the shape of the fans looks like somebody's legs sat on a horse. I personally don't see it. Anyway, that's long since gone. They've now got their own genus, Tulumnias, and they're a lovely little set of plants. Now, most of the orchids we grow, not all, are epiphytes. Yeah, okay, some grow out on the rocks, some grow in the dirt, you know, all that sort of stuff. But most of the sort of things we've got in our collection are epiphytes, which means they grow on trees. Now, these have their own special category. They're twig epiphytes. Therein lies the main difference that you need to consider. These are found growing in scrubby areas or on the edges of woodlands where they get pretty good light and in some cases full sun. And don't forget, this is Caribbean sunshine, you know, where we all go to stake ourselves out on the beach and turn a funny colour. And these can turn a funny colour too. They have a tendency to get purple tinges. Sometimes it shows as spots, sometimes the whole leaves will take on a purple tinge. It's a reaction to light and it's a protective mechanism, so don't worry too much about it. But if your whole plant goes deep purple, you might be overcooking the light, or you didn't acclimatise them and stonked them in that high light from a place where they were before that was shadier. As with anything with orchids, if you're going to change something, do it gradually. Back to twig epiphytes. These grow on very small twiggy branches. They're only just hanging on there, and they have very fine root systems. Those roots are often hanging on to those twigs on the underside. There are two reasons for that. That gets the roots out of the baking sun, if they get any. Yeah, so that's reason number one why they hide their roots on the undersides of these little twigs. The other reason is a lot of their moisture doesn't necessarily come from rain, it comes from morning dew. If you've got high humidity in the air, temperature drops down overnight, and around dawn you get dew. And the dew will be all over those twigs, and where does it run? It runs down to the underside of the twigs, where the roots are sitting waiting for it. These need, at their best, that fast wet-dry cycle. Yeah, so their roots are probably getting quite a lot of moisture every single day in the morning, then they dry out quite quickly. If you keep these roots soggy, they're not going to do that well. If you keep them soggy and you haven't got higher temperatures, they'll rot. So that's the provisos, yeah? I always think of Tulumnias as growing on something, not in something. But they will quite happily grow in a little clay pot with a couple of rocks in, or a bit of lava rock, but really they're growing on it, they're not growing in it. And you can just sit them in the clay pot with nothing in it and they'll attach to the pot. Or little plastic mesh baskets, they'll do okay in there, either with or without some, you know, stuff. But what they won't like is a sort of mix of small bark and moss and planted in it that stays moist all the time, you're probably going to lose your roots. So these are real twig epiphytes. They do like that fast wet dry cycle. Right, let's have a look at some. Some of these are new acquisitions. I actually got them at the Christmas do. They are not rootless, but they're not far off it. And the reason I'm getting away with them and they're still growing with very few or little or no roots is my high humidity and my lower temperatures at the moment. These are going to take off later in the year. Trust me. Right, this is one of the new acquisitions. So again, I haven't had it long. It's a single fan. It has a couple of roots, not many, and there are no signs of new roots yet. But it does have a nice spike. Yeah, buds are starting to push on. And that one has got a name. No, it hasn't. Well, it has, but it's not a proper one. Some of these new ones, they're hybrids, basically. And they were probably given an ID in the nursery where they were hybridized or where they were grown on. And this one's called Mo01. So it's not a proper name. But it's a larger growing Tulumnia. Looking at the size of that fan, that's quite a large plant for a Tulumnia. Some of them are miniatures, so they're small and miniature within that class. None of these grow huge. They can form quite a large bush, but that would be classed as quite a large one. You know, those leaves are 6-7 inches long. Well, that's quite a big one. The next one is another one of the new ones. This might be the other Mo. Yep, this is Mo04. And looking at the picture of those blooms, this one's going to be stunning. It's white background, deep purple splotches and blotches things, spots and blotches, my mouth won't work, and a lovely delicate pink. So I think this one's going to be pretty stunning. This one has one new growth which is pushing on. As yet it's not pushing out a root system with it yet, but it's hanging in there, and that spike was just about showing when I got this. It's now from the base of the plant about 6-7 inches long. So that spike's coming on. That'll be with us down the line. Now the only one I've actually got in bloom at the moment, this one I've had some time, and this one is Tulumnia, oh god, it's the one without the tag. It's something like, I'll put a pop up, but it's golden sunshine sunray or golden sunray sunshine, something like that. But it is a sunshine colour. The deepest red, with a very, very delicate but pronounced bright yellow edge to those top petals. And then the lip is a colour changer. It's got lovely orange sort of stripes on the extremities, deep red centre, and the rest of it's yellow. But it will get a richer orange colour as it ages. Now this one's growing on quite well. There's several new growths pushing up relatively recently. It's got quite an extensive root system all over the mount, out the bottom of the moss, so and some aerial ones. That's its natural trait. So that one's coming on nicely. Now I'll have to get these out of the way and get some more down, because they're all on different shelves. I'm going a shelf at a time. This is the next shelf full. This is one of my better Tulumnias. This is quite a good example of what a Tulumnia will grow on like. It's got quite a few new growths going at the same time, and with a young plant, possibly a single fan, you may only get one new growth, but once the plant gets a bit of strength into it, it starts pushing them up virtually in all directions, so you do end up with like a bush. Yeah, nice sort of rounded shape. So that one's got quite a few more new growths pushing on, but this new growth here does have a nice spike pushing on, and that is probably one of my favourites. So I'm looking forward to this one. That's Tulumnia Peach. That is a beauty. Pop-ups will appear where I can, so that's a good one. Very extensive root system on this, yeah. But then it's been on that mount a while. You know, it's been there to get like that. Each new growth produces new roots. Some of the older roots can go a bit brown and look a bit dead. Don't worry, they're not really dead. They still work, they're just older. And Tulumnias constantly replace their roots. As each new growth pushes out, a new set comes. So if the old ones aren't working quite as well, it doesn't matter so much, because it's constantly replacing them. Continuously sort of growing new roots, which is good. Now, this is a nice little miniature one that has no tag on it. A while ago, quite a while ago, I unmounted all of my Tulumnias because they had scale really bad. It actually lost me some Tulumnias. They actually died. They couldn't cope with the base of the plant getting eaten away and the base of the roots getting knocked off. So I lost a set. But when I unmounted them all, gave them a really good clean, re-cleaned the mounts, re-sterilised everything and mounted them again with some fresh moss, some idiot muddled the tags up. So I do know what they are, but I don't know which one's which until they bloom, and then I can match them up to the pictures I've taken, providing they have bloomed, but most of them have in the past. So that's a nice little miniature. That you see what I mean about they don't all grow big. Yeah, some of them can stay quite small. They still form a bush. See, now that one's got quite a bit of purple on it. It spent the tail end of last year in a place where it was actually catching the sun a bit, so it did get a little over purpled, but the new stuff will grow green, or if it gets too much light it'll grow purple again. The Tulumnia fairies have been round. Last time I watered that, there was no sign of that spike, and then you pick it up to water it a couple of days later and it's there. It just appears. It seems overnight. And I reckon the Tulumnia fairies come round and just plant the spikes there. This has bloomed before. It's generating a reasonable root system with that latest new growth. And you notice the spikes pushing out before the actual fan is fully developed. Some do that, not all. Yeah. And that one's Jarak Flyer Black Magic. That's a good bright red with a deeper red and a white border at the top. You can virtually say across the board, nearly all Tulumnias have got a yellow centre. That's just how they are. So that's those three. Let's try and get at the next lot now that are around the back of a shelf. Now normally when I'm watering, the front of the shelf would be cleared off so that I can reach round the back. I'm not watering today. This is going to be fun. If you hear some... Oh, you won't, I won't be filming. I was going to say, if you hear some language, I've dropped one. Right, let's get the next lot out. This next little group includes a couple that struggled to get going after that massive remounting and cleaning up session. This is one of them. I mean, it is now, it's okay, but it just took a while to get going. And its largest... Oh, blow me, there's a spike on there. See what I mean? Fairies have been round. I was just going to say its best growth that it pushed out after being remounted headed downwards, decided to head for the floor. And it's got a spike on it. Oh, yippee. Several other newer... Oh, and there's a spike on that one too. Oh, those fairies have really visited. That's brilliant. So there's a new growth at the top with a spike, another new growth pushing on next to it, and the largest new growth at the bottom's got a spike. And that's no name. I'm waiting for those blooms to find out which one that is. It's one of about 5 or 6, I think. This one is my only species, although it's got no tag, I just recognise it. This actually got a culture award a couple of years ago at Malvern. It did have 2 really good spikes on it. It's Tulumnia Europhylla, I think its name is. Europhylla. I'll put a pop up. And this has got a spike, recently discovered. And this has grown quite a few new growths over the last season. So... Oh, and there's another spike up the back. Yeah, there's another spike around the back. So that's got 2 spikes on it. And this one is unusual because the spikes will grow and grow and grow. No sign of any buds, just a spike. And they end up very long. And then the blooms on this are quite small, but it usually has quite a lot of them. A lovely yellow one, this one, which we'll see, but don't hold your breath. These spikes on this one take quite a while to get to the bud stage and then actually open. But this is a good plant. This one's growing on nicely. It's formed a nice clump. It's got good leaves. Nice plant, that one. Had that one probably one of my longest ones, that one. And this one really struggled to get going. And it's still only just producing some reasonable roots. There's a few white roots in amongst there, not a lot though, but there are some. and it's now got two new growths starting from the base. That was down to just a couple of tatty looking fans when I mounted that one up. That one has actually got a tag on it, and that is Jarrac Flyer Red Butterfly. It's an attractive bloom, but it's a way off blooming now. That's still recovering, that one. It is growing though, you know, I mean, it's safe. I've got no worries about it. It will just take a while to bush up again. You know, it had a hell of a setback, shall we say. I think that was one of the ones that was hit the hardest. And some of them I just couldn't even see it was worth saving. I just dumped them. They were just too far gone. And some of them just about looked worth saving, and this was one of them. But it is growing now. It's coming on. Right, these last three are the other three of the 5 new ones I got at the Christmas do. Young plants, relatively speaking. This one is Jarrac Firm Brown Brush, and that looks like it's going to have very delicate spotting on it. That should be quite attractive. That's running with hardly any roots at the moment, and just looking these over today, I think I've made my mind up that although the majority of my mounts at the moment at this time of year with the lower temperatures, they're actually okay going 3 days, these are not. I'm going to have to switch back and bite the bullet and do these every day and try and encourage some roots, keep that moss at least moist for part of the day. And this is going to be a beauty. Jarrac Rainbow Soft Pink. It's all in the name, you know. That really does look like that's going to be incredibly attractive. But we got to get it there first. Now that's got a larger fan and a small fan that doesn't look like it's going to grow anymore, but it does have just the faintest sign of another one starting at the base. So it needs more hydration, these newly acquired ones. And the last one is Jarrac Firm Hickory. Now that looks like an unusual combination because you've got the deep red, even deeper at the top, but there's a whitish background that looks like it might be a colour changer because there's quite a bit of yellow showing on some, but not all of the blooms. So that might be one of those that opens yellow and fades to white, or better still, opens white and fades to yellow, because then for the length of its most of its time while it'll be open, it'll be mainly red with a yellow background, which would be very attractive. So those are they. As I said, as an interim measure, I'm going to start watering those earlier in the day. I mean, you know, it's only 12 plants. You're looking at 5 minutes. It's not exactly a big deal. But I think certainly these new 5, they need a splash of water every day. My others can stay with the rest of the mounts. They're more established. They've got good root systems. They've always been fine being treated like that. But these new ones, to acquire Tulumnias in the depths of winter with not very good roots, they're going to need a little bit of help. So I'm going to switch to watering those early each day, give them a chance to dry off during the day, and then we'll go from there. So that's my Tulumnias. In my book, I would suggest they're highly recommended. I mean, they have gorgeous... You can see the Oncidium in the blooms, there's no doubt about that. But what you can't see is the Oncidium in the plants. These are incredibly fleshy, succulent leaves. There's nothing grass-like about these. So as far as the plants are concerned, they're not like Oncidiums. They do have the tiniest of bulbs at the base, but it's hardly worth mentioning. The leaves just appear to come out of the base of the plant, so that makes them not like Oncidiums. They've got a very tight rhizome, and there is one there. But nonetheless, the fans are very, very close together. I don't think there's any of the Tulumnias that I would call creepers that actually extend a long rhizome like a bulbophyllum and then stick up a new bit. They tend to be nice and tight and compact. And yeah, I love them. I think I've got 12 now. I don't plan on getting any more, but if I just come across one at a show, you know, that's a good plant with a decent root system, that's got blooms perhaps not like any that I've got before, I'll get it. You know, there's always room for some more Tulumnias. They're a bit like the twinkles, really, in my book. You can't have enough. You can't say that you've got enough. I've got enough twinkles now. Unless you're getting into 3 figures, of course, then you might need to say you've got enough. I'm nowhere near that yet. Okay, chat about, bit of care, look at some, and a surprising number of spikes. That surprised me. It's quite a few of those spikes were not there when I watered 3 days ago. Actually, 2 days ago. So, yeah, surprise attack with the old spike fairies visiting overnight again. I'm sure that's all they do. They just pop them in the fan. There you go. There's another one. And then off they go. And if you do have Tulumnias, don't cut your spikes. They branch. This one here, you can see where the spike was. And this is a branch. This is a branch. And where I cut the old bit off that was dying back, it's going to do it again. So don't cut your Tulumnia spikes until they go brown and straw-like and are obviously dead. You know, so at that point, yes, you can take them off, make your plant look tidy. But until you're sure, give them the benefit of a doubt. They will often have an initial flush of blooms, and then as those blooms fade, you'll find branches starting in other places. So don't be in a hurry to cut your spikes off. Very, very rewarding set of plants in my book. There's no big blousy blooms, you know, they're all of a similar size, but the range of colours, patterns, blotches, spots, stripes, different colours, different colour combinations, it's endless. It is endless. There's so many hybrids around, and they're not too difficult to get hold of. I mean, I could probably go on eBay now and have a look around the European nurseries and some of the private sellers and get a dozen, just like that. But I wouldn't be getting them from Germany because I might pay, you know, 10 euros for the plant and 21 euros to get it posted to me. I'm not paying that sort of postage. It doesn't cost that much to send it. I know it doesn't. It's a rip-off. But anyway, that's my Tulumnias. Quick look round, quick chat about their environment that they like to be in. Good light, fast wet-dry cycle. Don't bury the roots in anything that's going to stay wet for anything length of time. And they like to grow on things, not in things. Stick to that and you'll be fine. They come from an area with pretty good humidity as well, so they're not going to take very kindly to dry air. But they certainly don't get that in here this time of year. I think I was up to 95 last night. That's too heavy, really. That you know, I had condensation on the glass first thing this morning. That's too much. But I can't. Once the moisture's in here, I can't get it out very easily. And literally, as soon as I open the door, you know, as it starts getting light, I open the door. The heat from the lounge comes in, warms it up a bit in here. Humidity drops down like a stone and goes down to about sort of 65, something like that. Yeah, so Tulumnias, very rewarding group of plants. See you next time. Bye for now.